Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, July 6th. It is about 10:15. It's a gorgeously sunny day, 85 degrees, full-on humidity, typical summer day for Mobile, Alabama. So we're starting here as we usually do in the front porch. Not much has changed here. It's pretty much going to stay this way now for the summer. I'll probably bring in some more caladiums. I have some in pots here and over there. I did lose the hydrangea. It was looking not that great in here, the one that Miss Mimi got me for Mother's Day, and planted it outside where it has a slight chance of living, better than being tossed in a dumpster, so we'll see what happens. But since I have planted so many caladiums this year, and I'm calling this, for me at least, the year of the caladium, I thought I'd go into a little bit of history. I don't normally do that, but occasionally I do. So I did a little research this week and found that the caladium was discovered in 1767 by Philibert Commerson under the auspices of Louis XV of France. As a side note, Louis XIV was the one responsible for colonizing Mobile, Alabama in 1702. But now back to Louis XV. So Philibert Commerson found something in Rio de Janeiro that he considered an arum lily. And so he classified it as that. And then in 1785, Emile Paul Ventenat reclassified it as caladium, we believe from the Greek, kalos, K-A-L-O-S, meaning beautiful. There is some other history out there, but that's the problem when you search on the internet, you're not certain of all the sources. This one was the most plausible. There is another one that claims caladium is from an indigenous version, a Malay version of the plant. However, it didn't make a lot of sense. The dates didn't add up as to when it was found. So be that as it may, this is the best that I could do. And then, of course, the question of questions is, what the heck is that? I happened to find this in the garage. It's a caladium that never got planted. I believe it's a Kathleen, which is what's in the pot down there. So I'm going to plot that up, stick this in that pot later today. But basically, is this a bulb, a tuber, a corm, a rhizome? The correct terminology for what that is a geophyte. Geophyte. That's basically any underground storage organ of a plant. Bulbs are kind of like an onion. They have layers. If you cut them open, there are layers inside of the plant, or the tuber, the bulb. Tubers, of which caladiums are considered, are like a potato. If you cut this open, it's solid like a potato and it has eyes. A corm is one of these. It looks like one of these bulbs. What you typically consider a corm is a gladiola bulb. If you've ever bought one of those, they have a loose fitting covering over the outside, but this does not have that. Rhizome is like an iris. It's a long structure, horizontal structure under the ground. So technically speaking, these are tubers, similar to potatoes. So if you ever get on Jeopardy, you will now know the answer to that question. And let's see, I guess to bring it back into this week. Remember, I had said that Philibert Commerson discovered this in 1767. Well, what else happened in 1767? That was also the time that the British passed the Townshend Act, which began taxation without representation for the U.S. colonists. And you all know what that led to, having just gone through the 4th of July. I just thought that was a interesting anecdote. But let's go out for a walk without further ado. I did a lot of work in the front yard this week. I always like to start at these pelargoniums or geraniums. I cleaned them up. They're starting to look a little tatty this time of the year in the heat. Lilies of the Nile are still doing well. I have one bloom on this lily of the Nile. It has bloomed more. They do like to be root bound, so don't know what's going on, but I'll take what I can get. The bananas are really loving their life right now. They are huge and they are lush. And they have a whole understory of plants there. There's a little bit of fern that I planted on the ground. And of course my ginger lilies. They're the butterfly gingers. I would thicken that up more so you wouldn't see all that leaf litter and stuff, but there is a water tap back there. I can't tell if I'm pointing to it or not, but I have to have access to that. So I can't plant it quite as lushly as I would like to. I did go ahead and clean up my parking pads this week, the second time this year, and they look pretty good. My crepe myrtle, you can really see the crepe myrtle now, the one that was pollarded back in the fall. It's coming into its own. It looks gorgeous. Some of the flowers have gotten real heavy with these daily rains, and I've had to trim some of them back or off in order to have the branches pop back up again. Otherwise it was becoming a weeping tree. I did clean up over here. I started doing some of my ligustrum hedge. I do like to keep the ligustrum hedge trimmed into a rectangular shape and have everything around it be willy-nilly. But I ran out of energy in the heat after I did this corner, so I figured, well, it's better now than it was. But I did free up my limelight hydrangea. It had a couple of blooms I cut off because once when I got the ligustrum out of it, it had some floppy branches, so I just decided to prune them off. My cassia I trimmed back again, second trimming for this year, and you can see it is full of new shoots coming, so it should do well. My cryptomeria is still doing fine over here, as are the caladiums that were planted there. Crocosmia is starting to bloom. I did plant some caladiums, the last of them this week, on the corner here. I don't think they're going to live, or I don't think they're going to love their life here, right along the edge here. I planted them on this corner, in amongst the other flowers that are there. Those flowers will last, the dianthus will last through the summer. But this is a full sun spot. And caladiums, at least in the deep south, don't do really well in full sun. They may fry. So we'll see. I didn't spend that much money on them, but we'll see what happens. It was worth a shot. Of course, the last of the crinums. I wish you could smell it. It's absolutely delicious smelling. Crepe myrtle is blooming. It's the same color as the other crepe myrtle, the one that I've had forever. However, this one has purple leaves to it, and this one should not get as large. And of course, this is my dwarf magnolia. I'd say it's about 20 feet tall. It's a tall dwarf. Little Gem. You can tell it's Little Gem because Little Gem has brown undersides of leaves. It does have very fragrant flowers, however. Here's one coming. While I was out weeding this week, I could smell them while I was digging. I planted caladiums, of course, last week all along the fence. And they're all these same caladiums that were planted 3 weeks ago around the base of my newly painted mailbox. All of these caladiums are Pink Beauty, P-I-N-K, Pink Beauty. And they're the ones that I planted in front of the picket fence as well as on the corner. They're not coming up yet in amongst the dianthus, but they will. Also, the cactus that was broken off, I just stuck in the ground. It also will root, but I don't think you're going to see any growth on it this year, because typically the growth comes in the spring, and we are well past spring now. I have decided with this fig tree, since it pretty much got killed to almost the ground this year, that rather than force it to be a tree, I'm going to kind of let it do its own thing and maybe settle for a fig bush. So I will just let nature take its course and do what it wants to do, and I'll just, this particular branch I may trim off because it's a little too far out into the path. But we'll just see what happens, but I'll let nature take its course this year. Because I think I'm only, what's the right word? In for a letdown if I train it up to be another tree, because it just takes one cold snap to kill the top of it. So this way, if you have it be a bush, for one, it's closer to the ground, so it will withstand cold frosts a little better, and it's in the protection of the loropetalum, which is does not lose its leaves in the winter, so it's got some protection. So it may actually do better as a shrub. These caladiums are coming in their pride now. These are Fanny Munsons, and they have done really well and are doing really well. I planted more under the bird bath, and they are coming up. You really can't see them, but there's like one coming up over here, one over there. You'll see them next week. The 4 that are coming up in the 4 spots there are not Fanny Munson, but pink goes with pink, so they should look fine all mixed together. Those 4 came up from last year. Typically what I find with caladiums is they do come back year after year, but not as thickly. So they'll do fine. Of course, the first year they're going to do fantastic. The second year, what comes back. I'd say probably about 70 to 80% will come back. However, once when they come back, they pretty much will keep coming back again and again and again. Oh, I have to fix something. I'm going to do it right now before I forget. Sorry about the noise. I keep that little dish under the condensate drain for my AC, because that's someplace that Gado knows there's water. Gado is my turtle that comes around. Box turtle, I was told. Oh, someone's nailing. Oh, just cleaning shoes. But yeah, all is well here. The yard always looks good after you've done the parking pads and trimmed and edged. Of course, my lemongrass is doing well. Even this side has thickened out nicely. I think it only had 1 or 2 stems over the winter if you go back in January, but it thickened out nicely. And the lavenders are doing well in pots. Here is the drawback of crepe myrtles. They are a bit messy. They lose their flowers constantly once when they start to bloom, and if you park a car under that, the flowers will plaster themselves onto the surface of your car, especially in zone 9A where the heat really bakes them in. It doesn't really damage the finish, but what does is when you go to scrape them off, depending on what tool you use to scrape them, because they will need to be scraped off with something. Back in here, the clivias, or clivias, are doing well. I'm hoping by putting them in a sunnier spot that they may bloom this year. And this agave is one of the pups from the big one in the backyard that I dug out of the grass, because the roots went through that urn, through the base of the concrete, and got into the dirt and started growing in the dirt and then coming up all around the urn. Here is my datura. It's got a bunch of blooms. It has now taken off, and it will probably be 6 to 8 foot tall before you know it. Caladiums are planted here, but they're not coming up yet. They will. I'm not going to have any fruit this year. All of my satsumas, they were hit too hard last year by the heat, by the cold rather. Well, something got my toad lily. I've got a feeling I know what it might have been, but that's okay. The tubers are still fine. It'll grow back. Back in here, there is one of my yellow angel's trumpets. This is a weed. This is Virginia creeper. My neighbor absolutely hates this stuff. I tend to let grow things that do well for me, and this is disguising the fact that the kittens yanked some boards off of my fence, and growing that on top of the fence keeps the kittens from going up there. That will turn a beautiful red color in the fall, and it has finally made it to my trellis, which is good. I wanted it to do that. So it's a very good climber. Here are some crepe myrtle sprouts that I have to remove. I won't spray the root killer or the weed killer on that. Not the, what is it called? Sucker punch. Because it's a spray and it will get all over the leaves of the ferns and the African iris, and it will kill them just as well as it will kill the sprouts of the crepe myrtle. So I'll have to cut those out. I could probably paint the surfaces of the cuts with the sucker punch, and that would probably work fine. But what I have is primarily a spray. I did plant some caladiums here in this area, and the same on the other side. I didn't plant any along here because there is still a little bit of work to be done on the outside of the garage, and I thought it would be foolish to plant caladiums because they don't take being stepped on well. And I know me, if I get back there to do anything, I will undoubtedly step on them. So I didn't plant any there for that purpose. Back in here, my big pot, which I see the kittens have been in and have ransacked my asparagus again. I planted pink beauty caladiums and the asparagus. The cats like to chew on, break, and otherwise destroy my markers. But I did plant caladiums in that big pot. It was too big a pot to have just be dirt on the top for the summer. This is the nicest of the satsuma trees right now. My herb bed is still looking fine. I do need to trim back the parsley because it's starting to get a little... Oh no, that's not. That's just tall shoots. You kind of have to watch parsley so it doesn't send up sprouts. My Gara is coming back after being trampled by cats. And I see they have been messing with the frame of my toad lilies. Crocosmias look beautiful when they bloom, but you can see the cats have had their way with that batch. And likewise on the other side, they flattened them out for me, and I need to straighten them up. The plant doesn't care. It's going to be perfectly happy. It just doesn't look the best. And apparently I have a cat that must have been part magpie, because one of the kittens, or a bunch of kittens, dragged in this toy, which looks like a dog's toy, and we're playing with it yesterday morning. I texted Kevin, the guy that does my yard, because he has a dog that he brings with him, and I said, did Amber have a plush toy of a boot? And he said no. So it is a dog's toy, but apparently the kitten stole it from somewhere and brought it here. Here you can see the top of my Phoenix canariensis. I have to remind myself this is July, which means I need to fertilize my palms again. Oh, the male cycad is sending out its shoots. Yay, it finally won't look so naked. Let's see. No, usually if I pick it up and it snaps off, it's ready to go, but it's not yet. I've got my fountains going. The fruits have all fallen off of the pindo palm and don't smell quite as much now, which is good. Of course, these constant rains really, the Spanish moss loves that. Coleus doing fine. Colocasia, you can't kill. Everything in this area is looking fine. It's a great breeding spot for mosquitoes. Not a great spot to sit unless you have mosquito spray on you. I didn't plant the ginger lilies out last week. I'll make a note and that'll be done this week. I don't see any blooms on this lily yet. It's another milk and wine lily. None of the new caladiums are coming up yet. Here, these are the ones that came up from last year. These fruits are finally starting to ripen. I don't know why they ripened later than the pindo palm on the other side, but these are now finally ripening. The white angel's trumpets are doing extremely well. No fragrance yet. They tend to put out their fragrance in the evenings. And I was astounded earlier today. This is actually the second video. I did one video this morning and mucked up the ending. Actually, what happened is my hand went numb. At least that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it, and I dropped the phone. Not a great ending to a video. But my Cassia is in bloom. That doesn't happen till the fall. What's wrong with you? You're not supposed to bloom yet. I have to give it a pep talk. Now I have to extract myself from the flower bed. So yeah, that Cassia in the front yard, I've cut back twice. These Cassias lasted through the winter. I say these because there's another one here, and it's fixing the bloom too. I see it has some flower buds on it. So I don't know why this is running early, but it is. Here you can see the flower buds. And you can see the pink angel's trumpet is an absolute full bloom. There's a faint odor here, scent over here, but again, it's stronger at night. I guess it's faint over here simply because there are so many of the flowers. They're starting to impinge upon the pecan. I think I'll have to stake one branch so it doesn't lean against the pecan. There's quite a lot of weight in those branches, and they're quite thick. I'd say they're probably an inch across right now, the diameter. This is a pink angel's trumpet. I mean, this is a peach angel's trumpet. That's the pink. It's a nice view of the windmill palms. I have to look up more. That's a view of my Ozark plum. And I'm getting some more strawberries. Yay! They'll be sporadic through the summer. I've got some fruit on my kumquats. I just noticed that. They'll be ready for Thanksgiving. They always are. Here you can see that crepe myrtle is starting to bloom. A lot has happened since last week, and I really didn't do much back here at all, other than clean up after the kittens. These vincas have done well. They're not going to do well in the shade, so I just take it for what it is. And the cats can't seem to damage them, which is good. This is a dianthus I had moved from the pot in the back where I had put coleus. And it was such a nice green plant, I decided to keep it rather than throw it out. And it flushed back again. These are white Christmas caladiums. And of course the Nepenthes alba. Now this makes sense. These are white as opposed to the ones in the back that are red. This Sarracenia has done really well. It has thickened out nicely. No signs of blooming, maybe next year. This small Sarracenia is coming back. And my scented geranium, that's the rose-scented geranium, Rose of Attar. It always starts to look a little off this time of year. It does not like the heat. And I have pots of caladium bulbs in various stages. I'm sorry, caladium tubers in various stages here. And my eucalyptus is looking well. I can guarantee you, or I can definitely say that the kittens do not like the smell of eucalyptus. They leave that plant alone. They seem to stay away from highly scented things, but they love papyrus. I don't know what it is about papyrus. They seem to love that. Oh, there's a kitten. There's two kittens. That one is Luna, and this one is Dee. The lovable one is not there. They're starting to show their own personalities. Luna and Dee is the most standoffish. She's more independent. Luna likes to play, and Claire is, I guess, the smallest of the kittens. She likes me, so whenever I feed her, she likes to be petted, comes and plays a little and then eats. So they're starting to develop their own personalities. And I think the magpie is Luna, because I was playing with Miss Mimi had an old mouse, because Miss Mimi's old, an old toy, and it had lost its squeak. And I was playing with Claire with the mouse, and she was having fun with it, throwing it up in the air. And then her sister came by, and Luna grabbed it, took it in her mouth, ran with it, jumped off the deck, and quickly ran under the deck with the mouse. So that mouse was never seen again. So my guess is, of all the kittens here, I think Luna might be the magpie, bringing stuff in. But be that as it may, they're leaving my plants alone, so that's a good thing, or at least they're starting to. Well, I hope you all have had a good week, a good 4th of July, and hopefully you'll be able to get out and enjoy your yard this week. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and until next week, take care.